Okay, good morning everyone. Okay, why don't you read together the dharmas of a daily practice from number 1 to 6. 6 items of mindfulness in our daily practice. There is Mr. Cha in Incheon, Won-Buddhist temple in Korea, who was the president of the lay congregation. And he's a very serious practitioner. And he never skips the morning meditation and the regular service and so on. And he discovered very good correlation between his daily practice and the efficiency of his work at work. After his business started to prosper, and many times he could not practice sitting meditation in the morning, or sometimes he had to skip the regular service. So sometimes when in case that he could not practice a sitting meditation in the morning, that kind of thought sometimes lingers in his mind, and he constantly awaits when will I have some free time, go to the Mandaksan Mountain Retreat Center to refresh my mind for 1 week and so on. It's good that he's a very committed practitioner and highly motivated in spiritual practice. But don't you think when we consider his case, his mindset, something is wrong in his practice or life? Don't you think so? Of course, sometimes we can skip a morning meditation, it's okay. As I talked before, in order to practice very well, we have to know very clearly what is a spiritual practice. In order to believe in God very well, we have to know what or who God is. Then, what did I say? What is the definition of a spiritual practice? It can be described in various ways, but in one sentence, how would you describe when your friend asks you, what is a spiritual practice? Then, how would you reply to that? Adam, how would you reply to that? What, in your opinion, is a spiritual practice? Yeah, very much a Zen saying. How about John? Uh-huh. Yeah. Let's put it in this way. Spiritual practice is working with our mind. Specifically, maintain our mind very calm and peaceful. The first path, very wise. And make our mind very righteous. We have to put into action what we think it is right or we resolved to do. These are three paths: meditation or spiritual cultivation, the wisdom through Dharma study, and in won-buddhism we usually call that the last one mindful choice in action, which may start from observing the precepts. These three ways are called threefold practice or threefold training. That is the so-called the spiritual practice. In Mr. Chad's case, he just think sitting meditation or studying scriptures, that kind of practice at rest was to his mind, was a spiritual practice. At work, working in a very focused way, working in a very diligent way is also a very good way to cultivate the concentration. The fruit of our spiritual practice should be manifested in our daily life. So, two kinds of spiritual practice. One is the practice at rest or practice in stillness, just like we did sitting meditation. The other path is the practice in action. Practice in action. So both are very much important. Particularly when it comes to the practice in action, what is the point? The point is maintaining mindfulness. Maintaining mindfulness. How can we maintain mindfulness in so many areas? It exhausts our mind. First of all, it does not work. Let's pick up several items of mindfulness, whether it is in our practice or in our real life. So according to the Sotezan, the founding master, if you observe these 6 items of mindfulness, then you will not only become successful in your spiritual practice as well as in your real life. Let's just study together the first item today. In all your actions, be mindful to make choices with a sound thought. Okay, it's not that good translation, but there is no other choice. The original word says, not in all your actions. The original Korean word says, in all your applications. It's a very interesting word. Application is the translation of the Chinese character yong, which means use, utilize. When you read the Won Buddhist canon, whether in Korean or the English translation, there are 2 words that appears the most frequently. 2 words. Can you guess what are these 2 words? Probably that is very important. That's why our founding master says again and again to emphasize that. One is maum, which means mind. Actually, it means mind and heart. One is 심, maum, mind. The other is 쓰다, 용, use, utilize, apply. In other words, we have to use our mind very well. That is the essence of all the scripture, or the Buddhist scripture. particularly when you read the scripture or when you right now listen to my talk, you have that kind of a mindset or frame of a mind. I have to use what I heard, what I read in my real life, in my daily. That kind of a mindset is very, very important. Otherwise, it's not that useful or practical. What the use is it of that? We just conceptually understand and know something. In the early stage of won-Buddhism, when our founding master was alive, at the end of a meditation session, 3 month meditation session, at the end of the session, he gave a Dharma talk. But he said the same story again and again. Many followers are very bored. Particularly, the students who have a very good schooling background or very learned disciples thought to himself, wow, that's what I already know and heard. They even left in the middle of his talk. But as for our third head Dharma master's case, the Venerable Dosung, he told us, each and every time, even though he said the same story, it was always fresh, always new to him. Why? The Venerable Dosung also had a very good schooling background. But when he listened to his teacher's Dharma talk, he had that kind of a frame of mind that I have to use that, reflecting his real life and the practice. That's why it is very, very fresh. Be mindful to make choices. So anyway, in all your actions, in all your application, this passage is very, very important. Be mindful to make choices with a sound thought. The fruit of our practice is our real life. That's the reason why we practice a sitting meditation or do Dharma study is to make our life very enriched in various areas. But think about that. To what does the success of a life depend? On what does the success of our life as well as a practice depend? Narrowly speaking, it depends on our wise choice in our daily life. Whether we make some smarter or wiser choice, really our life is unfolding in that way. In order to make a very wise choice, in order to have very good judgment, we have to be very, very wise. Wisdom is required. But in order to let the wisdom arise, in order to get the wisdom, when we make a choice, what is the priority? According in this context, our mind should be very peaceful and calm. Otherwise, the judgment or our choice can be very, very misleading. For example, when you scold or admonish your children when they did something wrong, then when you're upset or angry, then you say something, then do you think that works? In that situation, it never works. Yeah. Of course, you have to reflect your mind. Eh? Only when we are very peaceful and focused, and then the judgment or the choice can be very, very wholesome. So, in sound, with the sound thought, the Korean word sound is the translation of the Korean word 온전. It's a very interesting word. It has various meaning: unbiased, wholesome, unprejudiced. For example, when you order a pizza, if one piece is missing, that is not 온전 or wholesome. 온전 means that kind of a circle. So we have to maintain that state of mind. Particularly, as I just said, the first, our mind should be very calm and peaceful. The second is you can check your mind when you make a choice whether your mind is biased or not. Even though you are very calm and focused, many times we are biased in many situations, particularly to some person. There is two won-Buddhist member in some temple, and I know both of them very well. They were very close brothers when they were young. When they grew old, their wives did not get along very well. When their father passed away, his father left a lot of fortune to the older son. So the wife of the younger son was not happy in that situation. And the older son's main business was in Busan, and he had several branch offices in Daegu. He could not take care of the branch office in Daegu, so although he basically worked in Busan city, but from time to time he comes to the Daegu city to check a finance account and audit a lot of books. But the primary reason that he comes to the Daegu city was he missed his father so much. And whenever he was very tired, he went to the graveyard of his father. And there he spent some resting time and pray for him and so on. But the younger brother has some kind of prejudice. So he started to think. He comes to the Daegu city because his brother could not trust him. In order to check the financial record, he comes to the Daegu city. Going to the graveyard is completely a pretext. He thought to himself in that way. Even though all the temple members did not think in that way. So when we make some choice, let's check whether our mind is calm and focused, and then whether our mind is biased or not. Our mind should be the kind of that circle. This one, why don't you read it together? This one, from the half number 1, in all your actions. It says, setting up a checkpoint in our mind. It's a very interesting expression. When we go to the front lobby of a big hotel, most of the doors are automatic. Our mind is just like that automatic door. Even though he's just a beggar, but the door does not recognize he's a guest or beggar, so it automatically opens and he can come inside. So whether something that enters in our mind is a wholesome or unwholesome, just like the policeman set up a checkpoint, whether the driver is a drunk or stolen car or not. In our mind, we need to set up a checkpoint. Basically, this is for stopping our mind. In whatever situation, you can just take a deep breath, or you can chant in your mind. There are many, many methods. It's just up to you. And before making some judgment, we need to stop our mind. That's the most primary thing. First, we have stopped our mind, and then we need to think properly, righteously. But as this is the commentary of our third head Dharma master, if you do not come to a right judgment after deliberate thinking, try to gather the opinion of others. Many times, even though our mind is very stable and calm, we are not sure which choice is the best. In that case, one of the best way is you can gather the opinion of others. For example, each and every morning we have the staff meeting. Many people have a different idea. But when we discuss things all together, although we did not give it a lot of thought, many times a wise conclusion can be made. You can follow the other's opinion or wisdom. That is of a big help. The second thing, if a right idea does not arise on a matter pending, leave the matter aside until a right idea arises. No great idea emerges from incessant thinking. Have you ever experienced this type of a thing? Somebody asks you your friend's name. I have known him for many, many years, but all of a sudden you could not remember his name. The more you think about that, the more it sleeps in your mind. But you can take a pause, and when having a cup of coffee or water the brand, all of a sudden the name pops up. Because of that creative space, you can remember that name. So, in order to make a very good judgment, constant thinking sometimes is not helpful. Just leave the matter aside and forget about that. And then you can revisit that issue again. The third thing, we need to, after our mind is calm and we know this is a right choice, and the last thing is we very courageously carry out what we decided. That is the ultimate fruit of our practice. We need courage, strong determination, commitment. There are many people who pay a lot and register at the fitness center, but does not go after several weeks. Our practice should not go in that way. Okay? We have to actualize, put in action what we learned and practiced.